side of reason. So we've got a couple of similar ones to go through so far. I believe we had Thresh locked in, Shyvana and Mundo across the teams. I believe Reason picked up Shyvana first, with Thresh Mundo being locked in for Cloud9. So once we're at that point, we're able to get into the new stuff that will be picked up.
Bess already demonstrating has a much better memory than I do. All I remember from the last Champion Select, they were champions picked, but indeed Shyvana and the response of Mundo and another champion.
Again, we're seeing these slightly different pickups from what we've seen normally. Beansu has picked up the support for Reason. Of course, he's not the support player, but has picked up Nami to give over to Barney D. And that's a champion that we haven't seen all that much. Has great picking potential using the Aqua Prison. I believe it's about a second and a half on the Aqua Prison, so big potential in that bottom lane to hold any kind of aggression by landing that Aqua Prison. But a Lucian locked in to go alongside Thresh with a Lee Sin as what I can only imagine will be jungle is a lot of ganking potential down in that bottom lane for Cloud9.
Yeah, indeed. And Nami has just not seen very much use. Not because she's a bad champion, but because there's usually more consistent picks. You've got Annie out there, you've also got Thresh and Zyra as well. But the Aqua Prison is so... the lane basically revolves around Aqua Prison. You miss the Aqua Prison, there's no point picking Nami, and it's just much easier to pick something like Zyra. But this time around they are going to go with that because Nami does fulfill a couple of different roles and also has that huge disengage of Tidal Wave.
And this is something we've talked about in just about every cast, because these are some of the only AD carries that people have seen all that recently. Is Caitlyn going up against that Lucian lane, and now Caitlyn changes the lane a little bit for Lucian, with the fact that normally Lucian would like to be as aggressive as possible, which he still will attempt, but Caitlyn sits a little bit further back in lane, a little bit easier to dodge his skill shots, just makes it a bit more difficult for Lucian to have the lane presence, and especially, as you said, with Nami having that stun, it's going to rely on the stuns heavily. And for the second time today, Yasuo has been locked in, so I'm sure there are a few champion designers up in Riot with a smile on their faces, as you can see Yasuo already being picked in competitive games.
There's a smile on their face and a wiki page on my second screen. So yeah, we'll see what the last pick is from Cloud9, and indeed Ku will most likely be playing Lee Sin, which I'm very happy about. It's kind of his style of jungler, which is very aggressive, get in the face of your lane opponents and really look for those early kills and look for the snowball. They are a very aggressive team, which is always nice to see. Very reminiscent of Cloud9 North America.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that we talked about 10 minutes ago when we were in Champion Select the first time. Kayle is available, and Kayle is the biggest counter to Vi. Obviously not in a matchup sense with the fact that Kayle's not jungling in this case, but the ultimate of intervention will prevent the damage on the target for Assault and Battery and allow them to get out alive. So Cloud9 have got good team fight potential once again with that re-engage here.
They do indeed. So again, we see the full lineup of Reason Gaming coming out here. So they have strong engage from both Vi and also the Shyvana, and then some good peel as well. It's questionable how well they can keep that Yasuo alive, and we'll just have to see how the game goes. Maybe they look for Yasuo as more of a split pusher, but his biggest problem in the game we saw earlier, Stress, was he was against a Nasus, and Nasus just gets to the stage where he 1v1'd you anyway. So this time around, we're not going to have the same thing happening.
Yeah, about to hit the delay period, but again, this is just such a highly anticipated matchup. We saw Cloud9 start things off fairly slowly in game number 1. We'll see whether they do the same in game number 2. Reason looking to put up a bigger fight this time with that Yasuo pick. We're going to head into a break, guys. We'll be back with game number 2 here between Cloud9 and Reason Gaming in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to the Scan Invitational here, powered by Netgear, Creative Sound Blaster, and Be Quiet. We're into game number 2 here between the highly anticipated match of Cloud9 Europe and Reason Gaming. This is sure to be a fantastic game number 2. Similar starts to last game for both teams.
Absolutely, and Cloud9 did indeed take the first game, and now we're in the second game. We see Yasuo, who was played in the first best of 3 we had today, Stress, and he was in fact played top lane, so we're going to see a little bit of a different style already.
Yeah, a little bit different, and we wonder how they're going to go for the builds. As we mentioned earlier, a couple of people have discussed different builds for Yasuo. Vlanitak, the analyst, 14 Dignitas North America, sent out a tweet saying that you can build him Bruiser as well as the critical chance that we've seen out of a lot of people, the Static Shiv Infinity Edged kind of build. We saw that earlier. I wonder whether we'll see the Crit Strike build again coming out from Reason now. Odamna is going to get a good ward early on. They're going to be able to spot any attempts here at blue. So Cloud9 getting a little bit of a deeper jungle vision early, but good wards out already from Reason.
I almost feel like Beansu didn't expect him to ward that early, because otherwise he would have quickly skilled the Twin Bite and just cleared it instantly. And that would have been really, really annoying for that Mundo lane.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit difficult for him to contend with. Now, this is... oh, Bubble actually lands in the bottom lane already. That's what Cloud9 have to be careful of, is that Aqua Prison early on, because it's such a long stun duration that it's going to pretty much result in a kill or at least blown summoners for Cloud9 if they land it.
Yeah, and it all revolves around landing those Aqua Prisons, and if you don't, then there's no point running Nami. But the fact that Barney D's first ball was landed, we hope that the rest will land as well, Stress.
Yeah, although we saw Voidal in game number 1 landing hooks all the time in the early game, not quite being so consistent throughout the rest of the game, but as the game opens up, it's a little bit more difficult to play Thresh to land every single hook. However, looking at this mid lane, back and forth trading early on, and again, this is a question that we haven't asked yet, is how does Yasuo do up against a Kayle who can intervention herself, hopefully during that last breath?
We simply don't know, Stress, because we just haven't seen enough of Yasuo in competitive play. So, indeed, the game we had earlier was the first game I've ever casted of the Yasuo in competitive play. So, we'll just have to see what Sencux does in the middle lane. And again, Last Breath will be completely mitigated by the intervention. So, in a one-on-one trade, he should be able to play around that. But with the gank intervention, there might be something changing that trade.
And one question I have for this game is Reason's team composition is heavy AD. There's just the ability for Cloud9 to build armor and mitigate quite a bit of the damage that Reason will output. Take into account the intervention as well. It may be difficult the longer this game goes on as Cloud9 start to itemize against Reason Gaming.
And it's very easy for them to itemize against them, because typically you don't always have champions who you want to be building a Zhonya's Hourglass on, or you want to be building a Randuin's, but in this case they do. So it's either they snowball really hard, or they just get out-itemized, and even with a little bit of gold, that becomes an issue. Beansu finds himself Q in the top lane, who has that double buff, jumps forwards with his ward, auto-attacks will consistently slow him down, lands the Q, Flash has been forced from Beansu, Burnout will drag him back to the turret, but some pretty good harassment for the early game.
And that's one of the benefits of Lee Sin this early on in the game. He has that ganking potential. Vi, although she has Vault Breaker and the ability to get into the lane, isn't quite at her peak until level 6, where she has Assault and Battery, but will be looking for the gank mid.
Yeah, and another flash has been burnt. Trashy jumps forwards. Last tower shot does not connect. First blood picked by Yasuo.
Who is looking to convert this into something for himself. Flashes forward, lands the kick onto Trashy. Ku picks up a very nice kill for himself.
Very smooth. Flash forward into that Sonic Wave, and Sencux will be just sitting there as well. Already his Steel Tempest Whirlwind doing a lot of damage to Ku.
And now we see Ku will hold this middle lane as Sencux is trying to shove that one in, but Ku will be able to just hold that off the tower and make sure that when Forbiven returns to lane, it won't be too pushed in for him.
Yep, so that first kill on Lee Sin is already a good thing, because it allows Ku to be still more relevant as we stay into this laning phase and just trying to take out that opposing jungler. Krislin has been hit by a Matrix death-scented. Bubble will land on to Jarman, and Voidal just lands the auto attacks. And Ku did tell me, just call him Jarman.
Okay, that's what we're going to be calling him. But let's take a quick look at these lanes. You can see Vi is heading around the corner, but Voidal, will he be able to land a Flay to deter this? Looks like Vi will be finding a way into lane.
Yeah, the Flay is actually used onto that bottom lane, and Jarnan will be dashing out of there. Not too big of an issue. Lands the Death Scented, goes back in. Trashy will follow with the damage, and again they turn us around onto Krislin, but that was only delaying for the teleport, and indeed Forbiven from middle lane. Flashes left, right, and center from Reason Gaming. Barney D trying his best to escape, and the fish will indeed drop.
And that was a big power play out of Cloud9. They managed to pick off the top lane and teleport down to get a 4-man stack in this bottom lane. Senkux has only just arrived. They're going to try and hold the tower. I'm wondering whether Cloud9 are actually going to be able to get this with 3 members there, or whether rotating to Dragon may have been a better idea. They're running out of time if they do want to do it, though.
Yeah, they're all kind of dissipating. Adamne is going to go ahead and recall, doesn't want to be away from that Shyvana too long, because by letting her just have a couple seconds in the top lane, will instantly delete the wave and push it to his turret. So they can't afford to wait any longer, but still, exceptional movement from Cloud9.
And that's what we saw in game number 1. As soon as they had their flow, they were moving so fluidly across the map, getting the objectives they needed, and team fighting very, very well from that. And Forbiven hasn't quite hit level 6, so doesn't have intervention available. You can see that's why Yasuo is pushing up into the wave. There's the level 6 for Forbiven as Senkux went aggressive. This could be a bad play by Senkux.
Yeah, Q coming forwards, lands the Q once again. Q completely on target with all of the clutch sonic waves in this game.
Sorry about that. I was just getting a message over to our production, but that was a great pickup in that mid lane out of Cloud9. Just a little bit unlucky timing from Senkux to go aggressive right as Forbiven hit level 6. He was trying to force it earlier so the intervention wasn't available. They didn't even end up needing intervention.
Indeed, and as a result, Ku will just pick up the blue buff and indeed clear it, so he's got the timer on that as well. Vi was forced into the middle lane, no way Trashy was going to be able to react to that, and strength to strength, Cloud9 will move. Beansu trading off against Odam, they jump back to his turret, Ku has found himself there, lands another sonic wave, and jumps in, he's gone for the trade. In fact, he doesn't, just jumps onto that minion wave, and the jungler Vi will just wander up to the top lane, but not too much going to happen.
This is far more Ku's playstyle than we're used to. Lee Sin is an incredibly comfortable champion for Ku. It is one of his most played junglers and allows him to play aggressive very early on into the game. And that's why we were a little surprised in game number 1 to see a slow start out of Cloud9, picking the Elise and farming. Ku on a more familiar champion of Lee Sin, now at 3-0, and we're only 8.5 minutes into this game.
A complete role reversal, in fact, from what we saw. It was indeed Trashy who was 2-0 early on to the game, and I think he also picked up the 3rd kill very quickly. Ku again moves into the top lane, looking to land that cleaver, lands the sonic wave first, gets the insect towards the wall. Ku takes another tower shot, shutdown comes in, but indeed Shyvana will fall in return.
And they're really trying to shut down Beansu as much as possible. You saw in game number 1, Odamna really was able to carry the game through by being that tanky top laner of Trundle. This time he's on Mundo, which arguably is a little bit more of a meta pick. And we'll see how he can do with this advantage that he's been given already. He's slightly lower on CS. And of course the kills are even, so the gold isn't quite in his favor. It's very even, but the amount of pressure that's being put on that top lane is so huge, and down in the bottom lane the hook has landed. It
has. They've gone for the engage. Box comes out. Chrisland will just instantly drop. Barney D is also on the point of contention, but we do have the intervention being popped at perfect time. Ku in this 2 versus 2 trade. Trashy dropped. The jump over the wall by Forbiven, and the ignite will be enough to finish him off. Senkux, perfect I wanted to call it Shockwave, but the Whirlwind knocks them all back, jumps through them with his E, not going to be quite enough. Double kill secured by Q, and the Dragon on top of that as well.
As you'd expect, instant rotation to Dragon, and that right there is exactly why most teams regard Kayle as the biggest counter to Vi. Assault and Battery got used, intervention immediately used by Forbiven because of the chant. As I'm stumbling over the words, I keep wanting to call him Forgiven, but by Forbiven, as the channel time of Assault and Battery makes it incredibly clear who that ultimate is going on to. So really nice play there out of Cloud9, and they have themselves in a bigger lead than they did in game number 1.
I'm like, okay, so Yasuo is dashing forwards and he knocks everyone up in a small circle. Shockwave, right? That's how my brain is working, but it's actually not. So I'm not even sure what to call that combo yet, because it doesn't actually have a name. But
but that combo is the kick coming out onto Barney D. Dash forward comes out of Lucian, but a very nice acropism locks him in place. They've got to be careful they don't take too much damage, because here comes Trashy. Doesn't have Assault and Battery available. They are chasing on. But I have a feeling Cloud9 are going to get out of this one.
Yeah, Jarnan will just wander back to his turret along with Ku, and I don't think Ku wanted to go too Lee Syndrome there and jump back in, but Trashy, without his ultimate, can't do too much else.
Yeah, nice insect play coming out there from Ku. Yeah. Again, just such a comfortable champion is Lee Sin. Already 5-1. Wow, that jumped up and I didn't even notice it.
He's just collecting kills, and it's just like, yeah, that's cool, you know. We don't need to comment too much on that. But with the dragon being down, there's no points of contention on the map, and we will be returning to these laning phases. And I think most of the jungler present will be committed on the middle lane, as we both have them around this area. Ku jumping forward onto the minion, flashes forward, and lands the Tempers into the cripple, and will just be counter-ganked very smoothly by Trashy.
Yeah, Trashy didn't have his ultimate available to begin that one off. It came off cooldown just a couple of seconds ago, so couldn't really go for a full counter gank. But here, it looks like the kick will land backwards. Assault and Battery comes out.
Assault and Battery knocked him back. Intervention also wailing down onto Ku. Indeed, the tower shots will also be falling, but they just, again, back on off. And I just realised that Trashy and Last Breath have a very good synergy.
Yeah, that is quite a good synergy indeed. And now, one thing to comment on with these early kills being given over to Ku is Senkux actually looks to be aggressive. Not sure that he really wants to do that with a 5-1 Lee Sin. Lee Sin's utility starts to fall off during the late game. Getting kills is really good for the mid game. Meanwhile, down in the bottom lane, I'll finish that point in a second.
Yeah, Voidal did land the death sentence, but I'm sure you can just carry on with that point.
Yeah, I can. It's one of those things that I thought it was going to be engagement, but
yeah.
Lee Sin's mid-game is great for having these kills. He's going to be able to pick people off, deal quite a bit of damage, disrupt them with the kick. However, as you get to the late game, when you start to siege and start really just having those focused team fights, his utility boils down to just getting a good pick to start the fight off with that kind of insect play. After that, Reason may be able to contend the team fights, but Cloud9 are accelerating once again. They're pushing this game as fast as possible, and they might not get to a point where Lee Sin's utility has worn off.
Yeah, and indeed his damage has worn off, because that's one of the bigger things as we transition to the mid and later game. Binsu does not quite take a Odalme cleaver to the face, but he will take one now. Ku steals away the blue buff, and again, they're just constantly picking up objectives and may even pick themselves up a Trashy. Q does not land from either of these players and knocks him off to the side with a Vault Breaker. Again, the Tempest and Cripple will not land, and fine, let's give him time for Senkux to react to this. Odalme waiting over the wall, jumps to the ward, and now Binsu finally comes down, so just kind of maneuvering around this small mic.
9-1, this bottom turret.
They do indeed, with the box coming out. 3-man push onto Barney D. There's no way he's getting out of this, and the intervention has also been used onto Voidal for good measure. Bottom tower will fall.
They will take that one down, and Dragon not available, so they'll continue this push on through the lane. Very similar to game number one. It's almost a repeat performance. They're taking down the turrets as fast as possible and just trying to shove through to really stall this game, well, to stop this game from being stalled out by Reason.
Yeah, Q was just stopping Vi from recalling there just so he couldn't assist with the bottom lane, and just constantly pushing him around. Like, stopping the recalls, taking things away from him in the jungle. It's just very annoying for him to deal with. Odalme has been aggressed on by Binsu, this time landing the Dragon's Descent and Flash. Not really sure where you were going, sir.
Tried to flash the Flame Breath, but of course, while in Dragon form, that Flame Breath is a little bit more of a cone rather than the linear skill shots, so difficult one to flash out, and that was all because they didn't have the Sadism ultimate on Dr. Mundo. Odamna wasn't at a point where he could kite that one away and regen a lot of health, because he doesn't have the itemization yet to get that massive health regeneration. That comes a little bit later when you have the Spirit Visage, so not quite able to get it, and Ku is playing very aggressive in the bottom jungle.
He is, and, well, Ku moving forwards onto Senkux. He really wants that red. In fact, he's just going to use Yasuo as an escape point, and he can't go any further. So perfect.
That was a very nice way of getting out of trouble there. That little interaction there. And that just, again, shows you Ku just very, very comfortable. Forbidden will take down that mid lane turret, and that's 3 turrets down in favour of Cloud9. Reason have managed to hold them to about a gap of 5,000 gold, but that does mean that Reason are fairly far behind for 15 minutes into the game. We'll see whether they can stall out Cloud9.
That's a very interesting byproduct of the fact that basically all the damage is AD, apart from Shyvana from the team of Reason Gaming. We're seeing Mundo actually not pick up the Spirit Visage as his next item. Look to be the Randuin's, which will mean he doesn't get that huge regeneration from his ultimate hit stress.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get the base regeneration from his ultimate, but he won't have that increased healing effect. Although, at this point, if he can get tanky enough with that Randuin's and the Sunfire Cape, the reduced damage from this pretty much AD team is going to mean that hopefully he won't need the regeneration quite as badly as the amount of damage that would come from a mixed team against a Mundo.
Yeah, it will definitely offset the fact he can't build that Spirit Visor quite so optimally. But now, with the Dragon being live, we do have both of the teams kind of congregating around this area, and Ku is just being the one who's going to be the aggressor. And Reason Gaming don't want any of it. They're going to, in fact, try this push down the middle lane.
And I think that's a good play to try and out-rotate, and they do have a lot of AD, but with the teleport still available for Mundo, actually ended up getting cancelled there. With the teleport still available, there's not really any way that they can push that through, because Cloud9 have just got so much potential to catch them out, with Ku so very strong in this game, that it's going to be difficult for Reason to really get anything here in this mid-game.
Yeah, Ku finds himself a Crystalline, but not quite the target he wants himself when he's so isolated. But right now, we take a look at some of the item builds. Oh, the Smite still comes in from Ku. Nice, nailed it. But we do see the Trinity Force picked up by Lucian, which is a very common first pickup, and will most likely go into a Bloodthirst, or indeed could go for a couple other pickers, but has already jumped onto the Vampiric Scepter.
Now, we've had a few different starts on the supports in this game. Doran's shield starts has become a little bit more common on supports ever since the trinkets that have been introduced and the amount of wards that you need for that bottom lane. Doran's shield gives you a lot of trading potential in lane, and you saw that earlier on in this game. Now we've actually seen the Targon's Brace has been picked up on Thresh, so going for the Targons after starting Doran's, whereas the Amulet has been picked up by Barney D. And Ancient Coin, that is. It's just a little bit different to see a Targon's Brace here. Normally you'll see that start the game on a melee support. Thresh has a little bit more range, but you tend not to upgrade it to Face of the Mountain, which we haven't seen as yet from Thresh. However, Reason may be looking for a fight here in this middle lane.
Yep, Trashy moves forwards with Vault Breaker. Doesn't decide to go any further than that, but most likely the Talisman of Ascension will be picked up, or as we've coined it, the Move Fast coin.
Oh, that was a pun and a joke.
Yeah, it was. I was just waiting for that to lock in.
That was money.
Oh god.
I'm sorry.
We need to move away from this as fast as possible, but in fact the guy will save us here. Knocks him back. Beansu uses the ultimate, might be able to pick up a kill. Intervention says no, and he should be able to pick up this. Indeed, it will be the red buff claiming that kill.
I was going to say, someone that needs to move away from something is Beansu, because he had 3 people collapsing on him in that top lane. Doesn't result in the turret being picked up, but Cloud9 once again making their presence felt. They really are just establishing that Reason's jungle is not Reason's jungle anymore. Ku, for the last 10 minutes, has really been heavily pressuring the jungle, and has been really just trying to rip Reason apart across the map. He's been picking any fight that he can, and just converting it into kills. Now 6-1.
Yeah, and you can see how far behind Vi is at this stage. Adane is going to find himself on the receiving end of a 3-man gag. And there's the combo with Sultan Battery into the last breath is so difficult to deal with. And plus it's going to be the initiating ability here, Stress. So he'll instantly get the armor penetration and set up Yasuo perfectly.
You can't be that confident, though, Adam. There were 4 members of Reason around, and you may be Mundo and you may go where you please, but without that extra regeneration, 4 people will burst you very quickly 4 versus 1. So it's not really the best play there by Odamna, overextending, but Cloud9 do have a good lead in this game.
Yeah, they're still in very good shape, and they can afford to just let Mundo do whatever he wants at this stage. Because a lot of times, you'll have this split push and be like, oh, it's a free kill, and then the rest of the team's just mobilizing around Baron. So it's something you have to be careful of, especially when you have these tanky champions who are just trying to soak up your time so the rest of the team can do something more relevant.
Now, looking at the mid laners, you can see there is a good number of kills on both sides. 3, 2, and 5 on Kayle with 2, 2, 1 on to Yasuo. And Kayle has just picked up that Lich Bane, so that's going to give her that spiked damage. Hitting the Q and then following it up with an auto attack is going to deal massive damage. I just wonder who will be able to get more damage off in these fights, because with the armor stacking already in place from Cloud9, you can see Randuin's onto Dr. Mundo, and a Warden's Mail with a Giant's Belt. That'll go to another Randuin's onto Lee Sin. I wonder how much damage Yasuo is going to be able to get off here.
Yeah, and the answer is probably not very much. They kind of need a Shyvana around the area just to deal that mixed damage from Mundo at this stage. They are just moving Caitlyn there just to clear out the waves before Mundo can do that himself, but it means in these fights they're going to be without an AD carry. However, they're just going to sub in that Yasuo, so it all works out in the end.
Cool look to follow up. Couldn't quite well, he followed up with the Resonating Strike, but his team were a little far behind. Interestingly enough, we see Voidal has made the Relic Shield into the face of the mountain, which I've had a couple of discussions with people, and the gold efficiency on the final item this early on in the game is something that people have questioned, but it's also something that isn't quite known yet. It's very new to the competitive scene that we've had these extra support items, so it's interesting to see a support the caliber of Voidal deciding to convert that into the face of the mountain, which of course will give a member of the team the shield as a percentage of his health.
Yeah, indeed, and there's the tidal wave looking for this engage, doesn't tag any of them, but forces two of those flashes, and the whirlwind lands onto Ku, but not the follow-up they really wanted. Beansu was aggressed onto Adam, they indeed use the Blades of the Ruin King. This time the Duke works because he is far more tanky, but that split damage, that mixed damage of AP and AD is going to eventually grind Odamni down. We do have Ku coming up alongside Voidal, but this is such a long chase and so tanky, and the lantern will be used to good effect. Jump over the wall from Ku, flash burnt by Beansu, and again the Sonic Wave will not connect on top of that.
And Cloud9 haven't been able to re-engage this until now because they didn't have Forbidden here. He's joined the fight, and here we go.
Yeah, they've got the full lineup available to them. Madame is back in the action. Trashy jumps forward, has already been eliminated. So is Sencooks. Two members dropping almost instantly. Culling used in this chase scenario. Slow on to Beansu means he's not going anywhere. Forbidden jumps forward, lands the Reckoning, picks up the double kill. That did way more than I thought any of us expected to do. And that is an easy Baron call.
It's that Lich Bane auto attack followed after the Reckoning just deals massive spike damage to your opponents, and that is a uncontested Baron here for Cloud9 at a very similar time to we saw in game number 1. They have 11,000 gold lead here over Reason Gaming, and that was just a really nice team fight. Again, it's something that we're commending Cloud9 Europe for again and again, and really separates these two teams is that their mechanics and rotations and discussions clearly between the teams for their playmaking is very similar, but Cloud9 are incredibly good at team fighting, but Forbidden might be caught.
Yeah, last breath actually knocked him up during the channel for the lantern, but he's still just flying away from this engagement. Reckoning chunks down Sencooks, does not want to go any further on that one without the vision. So Cloud9 again just get that 3-man stack in the middle lane.
And they're pinging on to Dragon. They know that mid tower is very low health as well, so whichever they decide here, looks like Jarman really wants to take down that mid tower, but there's a good few members of Reason still around, so they smartly rotate out. Won't pick up the Dragon. Now, they've completed a good few armor items. Both Randuins are complete. You can see the Spectre's Cowl will provide the magic resist now for Odo Amner to start getting towards that Spirit Visage, which will see him start surviving a little bit longer from that increased regeneration. So we've reached the point already where Reason might be in a bit of trouble.
Oh, Chrisland, you're going to be very slowly killed here by Ku. There's the insect, knocks him into the bush, cuts his own vision. Auto attacks come down. Hopefully this last auto attack should be enough, or perhaps not. The rest of the team has already collapsed. 4 men against Ku. Should be enough here, but he's already gotten out. A flash has been burnt. Last breath comes down, and shut down for Yasuo.
Yeah, really nice play. That Steel Tempest just made sure that he wasn't able to get out. As soon as he knocked him airborne, Last Breath came across, managed to pick up the kill. Ku does have to be careful that he doesn't get too aggressive. As you said, the damage isn't all that much from Lee Sin. It's enough to deal with a champion like Caitlyn if he can get a prolonged fight, but Reason were just able to react. And that's what the position that Cloud9 have to be careful of. Ooh, hook lands onto Trashy. They follow up with the Lantern.
They've gone for it, and he instantly drops. My god, the damage. 40% in an instant from Forbidden. Also found himself Chrisland. All 3 hits him in an instant. Senkut also dies. Triple kill comes out. There's Warrior 1 by 1. All for these kills to be given for Forbidden.
And the itemization in this game is very different to usual. We've seen the Blade of the Ruin King on Caitlyn, and that is not standard at all. I have a feeling that they're trying to offset some of this armor as by getting percentage damage, but of course it's physical damage on Blade of the Ruin King, so it's still going to get reduced. They're trying to just get as much damage out of their itemization as possible, but Blade of the Ruin King on Caitlyn is not that great.
Yeah, you typically don't pick that up, but you only pick it for, like, dueling potential.
Yeah.
And because Caitlyn is, like, the only one who can stop a lot of these split pushes, that's probably the reason. But that shows how desperate they are, even in their item builds.
Nice Aqua Prison does land, but I don't think Reason can really follow this up. You can look at the health bars alone. Here comes the tidal wave.
That's their form of initiation, but the Lee Sin kick knocks back Trashy into his team. Sencook will instantly drop the Biff and doesn't even take any damage because of intervention. Kuma's already there. There's the legendary onto that Kale. There's the double kill. The tower will be dropping in quick succession. Chrislin gets decimated as he gets his third kill, and Jarnan is just cleaning up the house. GG has been called from both of these teams.
Gotta be careful they don't chase too far into the Nexus turrets, but this one is all but over here for Cloud9. The surrender vote goes through, and Reason Gaming will fall 0-2 to a very sharp-looking Cloud9 Europe. Looks like Cloud9 have found themselves a very good team here for the European Challenger scene.
These have been some very fast games here today, Stress. There was a 2-0 in the first series and a 2-0 in this series. And it's great to see Cloud9 potentially being one of the dominant teams in EU as well.
Yeah, well played to Reason, though. They did look very consistent, and it really was just team fights. That's what we can pin it down to. Reason looked very consistent, very strong in their laning phases and in their rotations as well, but it just started to fall apart with Cloud9 excellently stacking their cloud control, as you put it earlier. So a great performance there from Cloud9. Does mean that our series has ended here, and we will be going to a break before our next series, but that gives us a little bit of time for you guys to get your entries in to win